This week, we look at the potential for devastating floods in the Waterloo region.
And we see a lot of that snow and ice starting to melt all at once, then we could be in for a very busy and very active flooding season.
And is the air we are breathing safe?
Even though you are a healthy person, you eventually will get hurt by the air pollutants, but just you don't realize it.
Plus, a look at how nudity in film has changed since the 1930s.
I'm Elisha Van Mayen.
And I'm Adam Rochon, and this is Spoke TV, your source for local weekly news produced by second-year journalism broadcast students from Conestoga College.
With St. Patrick's Day fast approaching, police and universities are working together to keep students safe this year. Caitlin McKenzie Keys takes a look at the new green location.
St. Patrick's Day is fast approaching, and that means busy bars, toasting to Irish heritage, and all things green. A holiday usually celebrated by partying from morning to night, St. Paddy's Day is very popular among the university students in the Waterloo area. Last year, around 7,000 students gathered here on Ezra Avenue in Waterloo to celebrate being Irish for a day. With each year, the crowds grow bigger and bigger, and this March 17th is expected to be no exception. The large crowds and large alcohol consumption that this day brings also creates a large safety concern. Olaf Heinzel, the Waterloo Regional Police Service's Public Affairs Coordinator, explains a solution to this concern.
So if we can move some of those students, and some of those students would be willing to go to another location where it's a licensed premise, it's more of a controlled and safe environment, that would be our hope that could happen. We hope that it's attractive enough.
So an alternative festival-like event has been created, and it will be held just around the corner from Ezra Avenue. Come Paddy's Day, this lot on Seagram Drive will have a heated tent filled with partygoers who purchased a ticket in advance. Lindsay Morrow, a ticket holder, explains more about this event.
The 3,000 tickets to the event sold out in 24 hours, so it's going to be really fun. It was a really popular idea.
While the tent party won't divert students completely, officials are aiming to at least reduce the size of this year's crowd on Ezra. For Spoke TV, I'm Caitlin McKenzie Keys.
With record amounts of snowfall this winter, many homeowners are worried about the possibility of flooding. Spoke's Brittany Mifsud talked to a farmer and a conservation authority about these concerns.
This winter has brought the largest amount of snowfall that the Waterloo region has seen in 30 to 40 years, and this could mean an extremely wet spring.
This spring, we're looking to face the worst floods since 1974, when the water levels were almost as tall as me.
This season, there has been 160 centimeters of snowfall, with 37 of those in December alone. The potential for flooding of the rivers in the KW region could be disastrous, but it all depends on how the melting occurs. Dave Schultz, who is the communications manager of the Grand River Conservation Authority, explains.
A lot will depend on how the melt takes place. If we have a long, slow melt, we could avoid some of the worst kinds of flooding, but if we get a sudden melt, like warm temperatures, and particularly if we get some rain, and we see a lot of that snow and ice starting to melt all at once, then we could be in for a very busy and very active flooding season.
The Conservation Authority is constantly tracking the amount of snow on the ground and where the ice jams in the rivers are located. Even small-scale flooding can cause problems for local residents. Mike Blumberg owns a farm in Cambridge. He describes some of the potential costs he will be facing as the snow begins to melt.
The major concerns that we have are the elevation of our bank barn and the water rolling into the stalls, wrecking screenings underneath the mats and ruining hundreds of dollars of shavings that we're putting down every day for the horses.
Municipalities are hoping for a slow thaw so the flooding is manageable.
For Spoke TV, I'm Brittany Mifsud.
Potholes cause huge problems for drivers, pedestrians, and cities alike. Road crews have had issues making permanent repairs due to cold temperatures. But with spring coming, warm temperatures may not help either. Water seeps into the cracks and freezes. When it expands, it causes the cracks to get larger, and then a pothole is formed. This year, we have had record amounts of snow, throwing the snow removal budget out the window, decreasing the amount of money for road repairs. But with the snow melting during the day and freezing at night, potholes are getting bigger and more frequent. Councillors will likely have to rework the budget in order to keep our roads in repair.
Next up, we take a look at a Fleshton man who is living his dream by building a backyard rink unlike any other. After record highs of air pollution in Hamilton, concerns have been raised about the air quality in Kitchener-Waterloo. After spending most of the winter indoors, Richard Keast finds out it is not just what we breathe outside that could be concerning.
The quality of the air around us isn't something that can always be seen. However, it can be felt. For people living in big cities, air quality and pollution can at times become a problem with stagnant air or light winds causing air pollutants to linger. An associate professor and director of air pollution research at the University of Waterloo explains that an average healthy person likely won't notice poor air quality.
Really, the effect of air quality is a long-term thing. Even though you are a healthy person, you eventually will get hurt by the air pollutants, but just you don't realize it.
However, people who are challenged by labored breathing or asthma may notice the effects of air quality right away. An asthma sufferer, Rachel Holiday, explains how living in the city affected her asthma symptoms.
Yeah, I used to live in Toronto. It was really bad for a while, but I had to take my inhalers a lot. But depending on the weather and the days, it's better or worse.
Although outdoor air quality and pollutants may have a long-term effect, Associate Professor Tan explains that indoor air quality may be more of a concern.
We go outside only for a very short period of time, especially in Canada. How much time we spend outdoor anyway? Most of the time we stay indoor. So indoor air is treated, okay? But the indoor source, you see all the printers, computers, they produce a lot of dust particles and some toxic gases as well. So those are what we should pay attention to.
For Spoke TV, I'm Richard Keast.
If you aren't hibernating the winter away and you are keen on getting exercise, why not go for a jog? The cold and snow might deter you, but Rebecca Turner talks to some experts for winter running tips.
Springtime is not here yet, but for some runners, the freezing temperatures are not enough to keep them from heading outdoors.
Yeah, the indoor stuff is pretty boring on a treadmill. There's not a lot to do, staring at the same wall the entire time, but outdoor is definitely more entertaining. You can, it's more enjoyable. There's a lot more things to see and different routes you can go on.
If you do decide to head out for a run in the winter, it's important to prepare properly. Manager of Runner's Choice in Waterloo, Tiffany Winton, tells us that the right clothing can make all the difference.
And there's lots of options. We have tons of apparel, and I always say there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So it's a lot of no cotton. Cotton likes to absorb our sweat, and then you stop and it freezes to you. You feel cold and you get back inside, and even though you've changed and showered, you still have this deep down cold feeling. So that's one of the biggest comfort issues.
However, if running outside in the cold isn't for you, it is possible to achieve an equally satisfying workout indoors. Fitness enthusiast Doug Mighton says variety is what makes his indoor workout rewarding.
The treadmill is a big part of that, but in addition to simply running on a treadmill, I use the elliptical, kind of give my knees a bit of a break, and certainly weights, and some variety is helpful.
For Spoke TV, I'm Rebecca Turner.
Having dreams and aspirations is one thing, living them is another. John Morris talks to Scott Betts, a man who has established perhaps one of the most elaborate backyard rinks in Ontario.
In the heart of Grey County, you can find a man living out his dream. Without a lot of hard work and contributions from community members and arena managers around the area, it would have never been possible. Scott Betts always wanted to build an outdoor rink when he grew up, but he never thought it would come as far as putting a roof over it.
It becomes quite compulsive, as I said, for me anyways, that when I built the one and then came across this building, it kind of lent itself. I knew it was a big step to take, but it seemed logical at the time that, hey, this is going to be a lot better, and I think it's turned out better for sure.
He grew up on an outdoor rink himself, so it's no surprise when he started building his own. Wife Tanya has seen the rink transform over the past half-decade.
This rink has resembled a real rink a lot more, because at first it was rectangular, but now it's oval with boards. There's glass now, which we didn't have originally. A little bit of viewing, unlimited access, and the Zamboni. That's saved a lot of work.
To a hockey lover, this is heaven. Bet's son Kyle spends his fair share of time on the ice. He currently plays AAA for the Grey Bruce Highlanders and has plans to pursue hockey down the road.
I'd love to play NCAA down in the States, Division I. That would just be amazing. But
That's the dream?
Yeah.
The rink is even used for practice by a couple of minor hockey teams in Flesherton.
We practice on Monday nights as a rule. We use it for skills, ice time that way. It's not a real huge rink, but it's perfect for that type of thing for our novice rep team in town.
But a recent call from the township led to a meeting about permits.
Although the rink is for the good of the community, the township has recently taken a closer look at it, potentially putting it on thin ice. Running a building like this requires a lot of permits, but Betts is willing to jump through some hoops to keep it going.
As more people visited the rink, the word started to spread in the small town of Flesherton. A meeting with his insurance agency led Betts to triple his liability insurance due to the amount of kids that were using the rink.
To me, it's ridiculous how these things have got. And I said, when you say these things out loud, they sound really stupid to me. I just can't get over it. I'm going to tell, those two kids this morning, those two 8-year-old kids, I can't have you in because I'm afraid you're going to sue me.
This isn't the first time Betts has ran into a problem with permits.
Couldn't get a permit for it where it was. It's fairly close to the road, so there's a couple things. You can't have an accessory building closer than your house in this municipality. The setbacks weren't sufficient from the road, so I'd have to get a minor variance for that. There was 2 hydro poles that had to be moved, so the cost was just unreasonable.
It was a stinger. He knew he would have to pour a new concrete pad now, but it did lead to the finding of a real Zamboni.
I had been planning on wanting to make a contribution, and I believe in the building community, and I thought Scott Betts is one of the best examples of building community that I've ever seen. So I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're keeping it. They've asked me not to say much about it. I don't think they want the publicity of, knowing that they're squeezing me a bit that way. I think, because again, they don't want it, and I think they'll try and help me if they can along, as by the sounds of it.
The feeling around the barn isn't that the township is trying to sink the rink. Just follow the rules and regulations. The next step is insulation. John Morris, Spoke TV, Flesherton.
Plagiarism, copying someone else's work, and paying for essays. After the break, we take a look at the rise of post-secondary academic cheating.
A recent study found that cheating in post-secondary institutions occurs more frequently than originally thought. Heather Mighton talks with local teachers and students about this moral issue.
Cheaters never prosper. That's if universities and colleges can catch them. The results of a recent Canadian survey show that cheaters are disciplined by the thousands, but many more continue to go unnoticed. Past survey results have shown that around 50% of students have admitted to cheating in some form or another. Plagiarism is charged in over half of all cases, and it's an issue that law and ethics instructor at Conestoga College, Ken Peters, stresses to every student.
Students are getting the lesson about just how serious an offense it is, that a case of plagiarism can mar your career.
Students can experience all types of pressure and stress during the school year, and the temptation to cheat is always there, as university student Stephanie Hendricks explains.
I think I'd be tempted to do the small things like looking over someone's paper or helping someone with their paper, but I don't know about an entire essay.
The most common consequence? A reduction in a grade. But are these consequences doing enough to stop students from cheating? Vice President of Enrollment at Conestoga College, Alan Vaughn, thinks so.
Certainly the number of students being caught in repeat offenses is relatively low. So I'd like to think that the first being caught in a first offense means they learn their lesson and don't repeat.
Other penalties included notes on student transcripts, suspensions, and even expulsions. For Spoke TV, I'm Heather Mighton.
Food trucks can be seen all over large cities. Robert Hoff takes a look at a change that will be implemented to knock down barriers food trucks are facing to get a license in our region.
Back in 2012, a bylaw was put in place that allowed food trucks to operate in the Waterloo region until the end of 2013. The City of Waterloo has extended the pilot project until the end of 2015. One of the biggest changes to the project is the fact that food truck operators will not be able to provide their services in the city's Uptown public square. Melissa Durrell, a city councillor for the Uptown ward of Waterloo, discusses why she has been pushing for food trucks in the area.
It's a meeting place. It's great for placemaking. So our public square is alive at lunch break where people are grabbing something to eat and sitting down. It's all about creating a vibrant core, which is what we really want to do.
There are 11 food trucks that operate out of the region of Waterloo, who generated close to $12,000 last year. However, with licensing fees starting at over $2,000, a food truck is a serious investment. In order to keep food truck businesses on the road, changes need to happen sooner than later.
3, 4, 5 years down the line, those food businesses that started in Waterloo, they're going to have left. They're going to have gone elsewhere. They're going to have gone out of business.
As of now, there are 11 food trucks operating out of the Waterloo region. With some new changes coming to council bylaws, hopefully we'll see some more food trucks popping up in Waterloo this summer. For Spoke TV, I'm Robert Hoff.
As local politicians within the Tri-Cities area are trying to limit growth into the countryside and focus development in city cores, the region will run a light rail transit system 19 kilometers from Conestoga Mall in Waterloo to Fairview Park Mall in Kitchener by 2017. Region of Waterloo councillors voted 11-4 earlier this month to award a nearly $2 billion contract to construction group Grand Link. Councillors heard from more than a dozen delegations and debated the issue for more than 3 hours. They even dealt with the threat of legal action. Regional Chair Ken Sealing released a statement saying that all issues have been reviewed by lawyers and the operation will proceed. The final vote will be held on March 19th.
Is Disney drawing up the wrong body image for young girls? When we come back, we learn about a new petition for a plus-size princess.
In honor of International Women's Day, Spoke's Laura Rossi takes a peek into Disney princesses throughout the ages and the image they have portrayed around the globe.
They're beautiful, bright-eyed, and full of life. Disney princesses are well known around the world, from Cinderella to Rapunzel to Mulan. They are easily recognized. They share many common characteristics that some people feel place unrealistic standards of beauty on young girls. Many Disney princesses are thin, beautiful, with big eyes and a size 0 waist. Many artists have taken the time to draw out the differences between a more proportionate person and one of the princesses. The differences are seen as an issue by some, but others say that as a cartoon, it is expected to be larger than life, so to say.
I don't think they should change the ones they've already done because, that's part of childhood. You can't really change that anymore, but I wouldn't be opposed to them creating a new one that doesn't have that image but still a beautiful Disney princess.
A high school student in Virginia has started a petition to have a plus-size princess now that the controversy of the company promoting an unrealistic feminine ideal has come to light. But should the princesses have to change?
It's a cartoon and it's really nothing more than that to me. I don't see the issue with it.
Princesses like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, Jasmine from Aladdin, Ariel from The Little Mermaid, and Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs are all classics. Pocahontas, Mulan, and Princess Tiana have added diversity to the group of princesses. Should the way that they look be picked on when the movies have many other lessons for younger children to learn that are more important than looks? For Spoke TV, I'm Laura Rossi.
Nudity in films has increased over the past couple decades. Sarah Schilling talks with an aspiring actress, 2 film directors, and a professor about the increase in risque behavior at the box office.
The human body is something we deal with every day. Everyone has seen a naked body in some form or another, yet when it comes to nudity in film, people tend to shy away. Nudity has always been a taboo subject among moviegoers, actors, and filmmakers. 1921 marked the beginning of film history, and nudity was something that was used regularly. At the beginning of the 1930s, the Catholic Legion of Decency stepped in and created the Hays Code, which banned many things that could be considered unholy. Philippa Gates, professor of film studies at Wilfrid Laurier University, explains how the Hays Code affected Hollywood.
So some people regard the introduction of the Hays Code as somehow a group censoring Hollywood, but actually it was Hollywood's own decision to institute a system of self-censorship out of the fear that otherwise the government would step in and censor, and then there would be no control.
After the Legion of Catholic Decency pushed people to boycott Hollywood and the choices they made, the code was strictly enforced.
So really what we see for, sort of 30 years after that is not a lot of sex and infidelity, no homosexuality, not drug use or alcoholism ever presented in a way that, in a relaxed way. And really by 1968 people say this is no longer valid in this world, and we switched to a rating system so that instead of producing all films for general audience, whether children or old people, the idea of the rating system was, okay, you can have sex and nudity and violence, but then we're going to give it a higher rating to restrict the number of people, or the kinds of people who can go watch those films.
Once the rating system came into play, Hollywood became more relaxed with what they would show, but there was still this idea that nudity was something to only be used sparingly. Filmmakers and the creators of the Vaughn Film Festival, Mark Pagliaroli and Antonio Yanko, are unsure why there has been a recent change, but agree that a change has definitely been made.
I wouldn't say there's any difference between now and 5 years ago. I'd say maybe 20 to 30 years ago, because not much has changed in terms of the acceptance of nudity in film recently. It's really, since the new millennium started, I think they've really just gone all out with it.
With the change in Hollywood ideals, how is nudity now perceived in film? Laura Esmerado, a graduate from Humber College's Acting for Film and Television program and actress, explains her view on the acceptance of nudity.
I think they're a little bit more lenient with nudity being accepted into films. I don't think it's quite yet breaking through in the film industry.
Some parent groups and concerned children's advocates say that nudity in film promotes promiscuity and adultery among people. Many filmmakers are breaking barriers and adding male nudity to their own films. The perception of male nudity versus female nudity is something that is still debated on among viewers, actors, and directors.
The reality of the situation is it's the human body, and there's nothing wrong with showing it. And I think that people are becoming more comfortable with having that conversation about nudity and about the human body.
And that seems to be a concern that Hollywood upholds as well, this idea that female nudity, no problem, male nudity, potentially problematic.
It seems that as human beings become more comfortable with the human body, the more accepted it becomes in film.
It's a risk, and I think that as an actor, we're always taking risks. So I mean, isn't that kind of the point? Like, wouldn't you want to take a risk? It can either make or break your career.
I mean, a director includes it in their blocking for a reason. It's helping to tell the story.
For Spoke TV, I'm Sarah Schilling.
For Spoke TV from Conestoga College, I'm Adam Roshan.
And I'm Alicia Van Mayen. For more news and information, visit spoketv.ca.